Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Victory podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I'm your host. I'm coming to you on the morning of September 7th, 2025. And hoping I can get back to normal schedule for this after kind of an off week because of circumstances beyond my control. But I want to bring three things to your attention here this week. The first one involves Donald Trump's pursuit of the drug cartels and the things that are involved with um, events in this country that are the illicit drug trade. So earlier this week, we had a video that emerged of a rather long boat uh, uh, that was taken out by the U.S. military. There were 11 people aboard this boat, and they had intel to believe this was a boat that was going to be delivering drugs to the United States. And the U.S. military took it out in the Southern Caribbean. And the people aboard this boat were Tren de Aragua gang members. And some people on the left have been losing their minds over the idea that the U.S. military would go to the lengths of taking out 11 people that would be doing this. I personally don't have a problem with it. Um, the legal issues, I suppose, can be debated around in circles and back and forth, and like a legal tennis match. But the harsh reality is this: we have thousands of Americans that die every single year at the hands of people who are bringing drugs into this country. Crystal meth, cocaine, heroin, a variety of other opioids, many of which are laced with fentanyl, which can kill people instantly or a first time using a drug. And um, just, I just don't have a problem with that at all. It is not something I thought twice about when I saw whatever it was. Don't know if it was just a bomb dropped. Don't know what it was, but the next thing you saw was this boat was just gone. Um, I don't have issues with it, but it gets to something deeper that is going on here. Venezuela is doing a fair amount of saber rattling right now. It's like they're trying to provoke us into something. They have zoomed Venezuelan jets past, or maybe they're made by the Russians or the Chinese. Doesn't matter. Um, they've been zooming jets by American military in the Caribbean in recent days. And it sounds like the Trump administration is now actively considering military action in Venezuela. And this other thing that I'm about to uh, mention could be one of the reasons why. So I came across a short reel on Facebook that was Glenn Beck talking with one of his assistants, and I don't know if it was Stu Breguier or whatever his name is, but Stu was indicating that he was doing some research of the congressional record, and Venezuela has been up to no good for the better part of the past decade and a half. So some of this dates back to the time of Hugo Chavez leading Venezuela. And what you have is back in 2010, 11, and these were the Obama years, you had Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad engaged in a secret summit in Venezuela. And they've also been doing some business with Iran. Iran certainly isn't friendly to the United States. And it's a situation where we have at least one enemy of the United States, Iran, that is actively engaged on a beachhead in the Americas. And whether that is one of these factors as well that is causing Trump to say, oh, maybe it's time to invade Venezuela. I don't know. But Venezuela is one of the two that I'm aware of, two communist countries in our hemisphere, Cuba and Venezuela. Are there others in South America? It's possible, I suppose. But the harsh reality is these are enemies who are doing business with countries in our hemisphere. And it would be interesting that the only presidents that were dealing with communism in the last 40 years in our own hemisphere would be Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. The Bushes were preoccupied with other things in the Middle East. Um, but this is something that is going on right now. And in the description to the podcast, I'm going to leave with you um, not just the clip from the Glenn Beck show, but I'm also going to leave with you the press release from the Justice Department on a drug bust that happened in southern Ohio just last week. And it involved, I believe it was 3 Americans and 22 Chinese nationals. What they did is they traced drugs that ultimately landed in southern Ohio in the Dayton area, and I don't know what the exact market area was, and frankly I don't care. But they traced those drugs directly back to China, to people there who knew that the chemicals that were coming into the United States were going to be used for the production of fentanyl, opioids, other things that are killing Americans. And just some fascinating stuff there that is happening in the war on drugs, if we can resurrect a phrase from the 1980s. Just some really fascinating stuff. Um, and speaking of things that involve foreign countries, I want to talk briefly about a conference that happened last weekend in Michigan called the People's Conference for Palestine. The rhetoric at this event is nothing short of insurrection. There were multiple speakers, including a sitting Congresswoman of the United States, Rashida Tlaib, who engaged in rhetoric, who said things that would involve either harm directly to officials of the United States government or harm in an effort to take action against the United States government. And we need to have a conversation about this. And we haven't been doing that because Islam is off limits. Islam is off limits. You can't you can't you can't go there. We have countless imams in this country today that are talking about hatred of this country, which would make me ask, then why are you here? Well, there's one reason why they're here. And if you listen to rhetoric from Muslims in Europe, England, Germany, France, and elsewhere, whenever Muslims talk, the rhetoric is not about freedom. It's not about liberty. It's not wanting to peacefully coexist with people of other faiths. They talk about domination, conquering, and making people of other faiths submit to Islam. And this is a conversation that is long overdue in our country. And I'm not talking about a bunch of heated rhetoric either. We need a healthy adult conversation about the goals of Islam in the United States of America. Because to hear some of the imams talk, they have one goal and one goal only. We're going to conquer the United States of America. And if you listen to what's happening in Western Europe right now, it's conquer Western Europe. And this is a conversation that must happen in our country if we are going to continue our system of self-government. Because if we don't, and there's this drip, drip, drip of more political strength of Muslims in this country, the next thing we know, they're going to be talking about Sharia law. And they have courts in certain European nations that the thing that directs justice in those courts is Sharia law. And I don't believe there is a single American, other than those who might be Muslim, who want to see that unfold. And that kind of brings me to my last item. U.S. Senator Tim Kaine. And this will be something that I link in the description to the podcast as well. Because there was a video that emerged last week from a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. I believe they were just having a conversation with a federal court nominee. And if you've spent a little time following this in recent weeks and months, there has been a backlog of judges who are sitting unacted on in the U.S. Senate. And there's been all kinds of talk of strategies about how to deal with it. But this is now going on. And Tim Kaine is a Catholic. Okay? If you search for on his bio online, you will see he is a Catholic. How did Senator Tim Kaine get through catechism classes as a child and reach the point where he is in his what? I'm assuming somewhere in his 60s, perhaps a little older, and he's talking about how our rights come from the government. You can listen to it yourself. The video is pretty clear. In fact, I'm also going to link in the description to the podcast a response by a Catholic priest by the name of Robert Barron. You can listen to him because, frankly, the priest makes a whole lot more sense than Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine is both theologically and historically illiterate. Famous Virginians, namely of which was Thomas Jefferson, said our rights are granted by our Creator, God, who gave us certain inalienable rights. And among those are the rights of right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And the idea that a sitting senator has no clue about where our rights come from, frankly, it's frightening. How does someone fool that many people so consistently over time where they don't understand this guy's worldview? Because the other thing that's just frightening about this whole thing is the fact that did he not go through the 20th century with um, the Warsaw Pact in the Soviet bloc, China then and still now, Vietnam, um, Cuba, a variety of other places, North Korea, that have and are pursuing communism even today because they insist the rights of the people come from the government. And if rights come from the government, guess what they can do? Government will take them away. Government will decide who, what, when, where, why, and how any of that happens. And it's a frightening scenario to have a bunch of elected officials in Washington, a state capital, or a county seat determining what our rights are and what they're not, and which way the wind is blowing as they wet their finger and decide, oh, today we're going to change that. Virginians should be ashamed of themselves for electing a guy who has been conning you for better part of probably at least two different terms, probably more, where he doesn't know basic American history. And what's even worse in this video, he basically says people who view rights coming from God is no different than, like I just said, Muslims who want to impose Sharia law. So Tim Tim Kaine is concerned about that, but I'm willing to bet he's not concerned about the rhetoric of one of his Democratic colleagues in the House, Rashida Tlaib, basically calling for the downfall of the American government. Tim Kaine equates Christianity and Islam as the same thing. He is theologically illiterate. He doesn't know basic theology of not only Christianity, Islam. Um, the this segment that doesn't run very long is frankly very telling, and it just kind of helps underscore that we have many politicians in our country who have gotten power, been reelected multiple times, and people don't know how those officials think. And the fact that Tim Kaine, as this, senior member of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Democratic caucus in the U.S. Senate, talks like this, should send chills up the spine of not only every American, at least every Virginian who had the intestinal fortitude to allow him to have power as an elected official. Anyways, um, those three things have been just screaming for attention this week, as the week has unfolded, and I bring them to your attention. And I have dropped a column today on a spiritual issue that came up as a result of the school shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'd encourage folks to read that. I'll be writing again for next Sunday. And until next time, God bless and goodbye.